Thank you so much for tuning into Journey with Christian D. Evans podcast. Today, guys, we have an incredible guest that we have. I tell you this, everybody knows that LinkedIn is a huge, huge mammoth in the world right now. Gary Vee has said it numerous times. And, for those that didn't have the foresight and missed the opportunity of Facebook and Instagram, you have it with LinkedIn. So we all understand that. And today's guest is someone that just is exploding in it. In fact, he is considered one of the top business and marketing leaders in Southern Ontario, Canada. Before he even launched into his career, he also placed top 10 in Canada back to back at the Canadian National Enactus Entrepreneurship Challenge. So he knows what he's talking about. Okay, guys. He's also, in 2017, he won the top 40 under 40 Business Achievement Award in Hamilton. And guys, I'm just so excited to share some of his knowledge, his wisdom, really diving into it. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Fabio Marrama. How are you doing today, sir?
Awesome, Christian. Appreciate the invite. I'm looking forward to sharing as much value as possible, whether it's LinkedIn or otherwise, the journey that I've gone through, and hopefully your guests could get something that tangibly they could take away from this.
Well, and I really appreciate you being on because, obviously, like I said, I really want to kind of dive into we all understand, LinkedIn and leveraging LinkedIn. And we've heard Gary Vee say, put your 2 cents in 90 times a day and building that momentum. And what I'd really like to do is kind of like strategically, to really say, okay, instead of just going out there, putting your 2 cents 90 times, strategically, how do you do that to build your momentum in your target market? So I'd love to get your kind of response on that.
Yeah, I think for sure that, Gary has a point because every platform goes through a growth phase. And LinkedIn's interesting in that it's kind of reinventing itself, right? It used to be, and still is to some extent, people call it like a resume platform, right? Your online resume. Couldn't be further from the truth there. I think it's grown to being social media for business, social media for the working professional. So it's a very different type of platform. And, I think everybody, our time is strapped. So we as individuals we don't have the mega power that Gary Vee has, for example, in terms of being able to put our 2 cents on every single platform. So you have to be very strategic on how can you leverage underpriced attention in the marketplace. Yeah. And so if you look at specific platforms, it's understanding what areas, if I'm going to put my money in, where am I going to get the best return on my investment? Yeah. And so there's certain platforms that right now, I would say from an organic perspective, you wouldn't want to put time in. Facebook, you want to put time in. Twitter, even not so much right now. Like there's certain platforms that are growing. He's talking about TikTok and LinkedIn's on a huge growth phase as well. And so, so I would say from a putting your 2 cents in, there's a dipping your toe in the water, and then there's just jumping and diving right in. I chose, for example, to not just dip my toe in the water. I said I'm going full tilt on LinkedIn because I see value and opportunity in this in the future, not just now, but in the future. And I want to put my stamp in my industry so that I've established that trust, credibility, and that network growth for years to come. And so it takes time, but at the same time, there are opportunities that don't necessarily always come around twice. And so, like you said, I really truly believe that LinkedIn is on a growth trajectory right now. There's a huge opportunity in terms of there's not a lot of people posting content right now, but there's a huge amount of people on the platform. So, when you look at people, there's a huge demand for content because these people want to consume content on the platform. But there's not a lot of people doing it. That's a good thing. That means you can get in there and be seen by a lot of people. And so I think for a lot of people, it's, what are you doing today if you're not getting if you're putting your 2 cents on all these other platforms multiple times a day and you're not seeing a return on engagement, you're not seeing growth, well, maybe put that time and energy into other platforms like LinkedIn, and you'll see some amazing results happen.
Definitely. Okay. And I'm just as well intrigued with like how to optimize the hashtags, because it's like, I took before, when I started really kind of doing this, I started just doing my 2 cents, and I started realizing that I was putting my 2 cents on things that really weren't in my niche or in my industry. And you can get easily lost in that because there's so much content on there, oh, this guy looks cool to connect with, but he may not actually I shouldn't say like, bring value, but it's not going to be, articulate for where I'm going or what I'm, pushing my content out, if you will. It's not going to be value for him either or her either. And so I'm just intrigued with like, how to optimize, your strategy to making sure that you're putting your 2 cents and engaging with the right content that will, of course, have that mutual relationship. I'm just intrigued with your response.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think LinkedIn's a unique platform when we think about 2 cents in terms of what 2 cents are we giving people? I think there's a huge difference on LinkedIn because I think when you look at its core, it's like a business networking platform, right? So your 2 cents should be more focused, less on comments is great, but how can you truly stand out to people when you're connecting with them? Because if you can go connect with, everybody gets on the platform 30,000 connections that you can then connect with them. You can now message back and forth and have a conversation, send voice messages, send videos, send, the written word. And so you're essentially, you're getting access to that person. And I like to say it's like LinkedIn's like the backdoor entrance to meeting some of the most amazing people in the world. Because I think it's still unsaturated, and go meet someone that's got millions of followers on Instagram and go message them and see if you get a response. More than likely not. But go message them on LinkedIn, and you actually might get a response from them because they might still be managing it. So I think craft more of those 2 cents. How can you show up in a way that's going to be unique and different and stand out when you're messaging someone to connect with them? Because now you can go add, 10, 20,000 influencers and people in your space that you could truly blow up from. And I think leveraging their platforms, leveraging their growth and expertise, and think about it. In 5 years, if they all take it seriously and they scale and grow, how 10,000 people, 20,000 people that you added 10, 12, 18 months ago, that now you have a very engaged network, and they only have limited connections as well. So if you're part of that early, part of that forever. And so I think that's a huge opportunity for people, because they could bring you new client opportunities. They can engage on your content, and then now your post and video is going to their followers. And so I think that's the beauty of that sort of a networking type of platform with LinkedIn, and how it just differentiates from other platforms as well. So while I think, Instagram, other platforms are putting your 2 cents in is good. LinkedIn right now, you want to not just put your 2 cents in, you want to actually create the conversation. So you want to post content. And so by posting content, your own videos, writing long form articles, short form posts, you want to start establishing yourself while organic reach and engagement is at an all-time high, right? Because I think that's where the best potential for growth is right now.
Definitely. So then like, like you were saying, coming back to strategically, being able to put all this into action, what are some things that would you recommend, like your daily method of operation, if you will, something that, is tangible that you're doing every single day? I know on your bio and in your LinkedIn account, it says consistency is one of the biggest things to, that you really focus on. And so I'd love to hear like, should I connect with so many people a day? And then, something that like, an individual can only do. You can't connect 100 people a day every single day, and to be able to be, building that relationship. Sure, you could just go ding, 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 but I'm just curious, like, what is your strategy now that you're at this point, and obviously looking back, for someone that's maybe just starting out or even in the middle and just, they already have 500 connections and they're trying to build that a little bit further?
That's actually a great, that's an excellent point, Christian, because I think that's exactly where I was when I started. I had about 500 or 600 connections before I really started, really ramping up my consistent engagement on the platform. And so, but I think before we get into sort of those day-to-day pieces and sort of what those little tangible steps are, I think the first thing is you will not grow if you don't know who you serve, right? So I think step one is you have to know who you serve. And so you could go add 30,000 people of random people, but then if you go post a piece, let's say you go add accountants and engineers and developers and all these random people from other parts of the world, and you go accept their connections or you go add them, but you like to talk about marketing. Well, if you don't have any marketers or entrepreneurs or people that are actually interested in that topic, well, nobody will even care what you have to say. So I think it's you have to understand first before you sort of build a strategy and before you grow is like, who do I want to serve and who do I want to sort of grow a community with? And so that's the main thing is, number one, who do I want to serve? Who do I want to grow a community with? And then from there, you want to say, okay, I got to optimize my profile. So the first thing people need to do is, once they understand who they serve, is you got to optimize that profile for growth and conversion. So, it's great to have sort of an online resume, like people sort of have, but I think what you want to do is you want to be known in a particular part of your industry, whether it's, I want to be known as a marketer that teaches marketing or educates people on marketing. I want to be known as that accountant or that finance professional that teaches people, the financial side of business, or whatever it is that you do. I'm a podcaster. I want to show people how to start a podcast, right? How they can monetize it for their business. So whatever it is, that niche you want to grab onto, that should be clearly spoken and articulated in your profile. So your cover photo should be very bold and visible. It should have you as your brand, because you're an individual person, not a cityscape of San Francisco or some sort of, like, it needs to be you, and it needs to grab people. So when they get there, that's the first thing that they see. So that you're building trust and credibility right up front before they've even read anything. Cover photo is huge. You need to have a professional photo in there as well, like a professional profile photo. So I would recommend, if you don't have one, get rid of that selfie in your bathroom and go grab one. Spend a little bit of money and get a nice professional one from a photographer. Barter with someone, trade your services for them. If they're a photographer, like, hey, I can help you with this, and you want to exchange for that. Whatever you got to do, get a nice one up there. And then your description. You want to talk about who you are, trust credibility statements. You want to talk about how you serve and help people, and then have a call to action at the end. So when traffic's coming in, there's an ultimate destination you want people to lead to. If it's a podcast, hey, listen to my podcast. If it's a product, here's my product or service. Hey, you want to jump on a call with me? Jump on a call with me. What's that call to action once they hit your profile? So once you get all that sort of in there, you've optimized that profile. It looks visually great. That you've got skills in there. You've filled a lot of that information out. You're sort of ready to start growing, because when you start adding people will naturally sometimes not add you right away. They'll go to your profile, they'll check you out and say, is this person worth accepting or adding into my community? And then they'll make a decision. And if your profile is optimized, it looks great, you're actually building in that person's mind, this person would be really good to add to. Like, they could give me some opportunities in the future, right? Like, so people always think about themselves. Yeah. So when you think about it that way, optimizing your profile is huge. So you got to do that. So then going back to sort of understanding who you serve, those are the people you need to start adding. So when you're starting out, I would say you need to, it takes time, but go add, I would say 50 to 100 people a day. There's going to be days that you can't, but go add 50 to 100 people a day. If you're very focused on adding a particular and very targeted, personalized invite, you have to do that. So if you go add, just click, connect button with 100 people, you're going to get a very low acceptance rate. And so I tell people, always add a personalized invite. And if that's like a personalized message, it's like, hey, Christian, I just saw your last post, or I saw your last comment on your post. You talked about that you're really excited to see the next stage of podcasting and how, XYZ led to the growth in last year. I thought it was really insightful, and I'd love to continue learning a little bit more about what you do and following your content. Would love to connect, my friend. Boom. Most people are going to accept that because it was very warm and inviting. It takes time to do that. But that's the 2 cents that I'm talking about, right? Go do that over and over. Now you're actually starting a relationship up front with someone who could be a potential client down the road, who will remember you. If you go post something out, they're going to be like, oh, I remember Christian. He sent me that very warm, inviting message. He didn't just send me some sort of canned template response, right? And he didn't sell me right away. You're going to stand out so much in that person's mind. And when you drop those 2 cents of warm, personalized invites 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 times, now you're building, I like to not just say followers, you're building a community of people that will go to bat for you. And so that's the beauty of people doing it the right way versus people not wanting to put the time and effort in. And so when you do that, 50, 100 people a day, you're going to get 70, 80 acceptance back, right? Of really prominent people that you serve, executives, CEOs, coaches, whoever you serve. And that's how you're going to grow your community. And as you keep doing that, getting acceptance and growing those connection base, now you want to continue posting content. You want to be like, hey, I want to post some videos. I want to showcase myself as an authority. I want to post videos in my space. I want to write an article. I want to post a photo, share my story, get people to know who I am. Because now you got the content, you got inbound requests coming in because people are like, hey, Christian, love that video of the 5 points you shared about XYZ. This was awesome. I'd love to follow your content. Now people are doing it to you. And at the same time, you're still connecting with other people. So now you're getting a good influx. You got inbound, you get outbound messages going in. And that's kind of how you can really grow your community to that next level. And as it grows, your content's going to reach more people, more inbound requests. And then it just spreads like wildfire. It's crazy how when you put in that work up front and you have a solid foundation of knowing who you serve, your profile is optimized, you've done it the right way. And that's how you can really build on a good foundation.
And that's really good information. I really appreciate you kind of going to the start of it instead of just start where I asked. And I think that's really, really important. I think, you're exactly right. Some people don't get that. I mean, I see numerous times when, I looked at a LinkedIn account and it says, I help, I'm a coach that helps CEOs achieve 6 figures. It's very, very specific of who they help, what they do. They're
Yep.
a coach for CEOs that want to,
Yep.
achieve blah, blah, blah. And what that does is it helps just kind of be able to like, oh, maybe if I know a CEO or, you know what I mean? And so it's that mutual relationship. I appreciate you just sharing that information. So
Yeah.
then let me ask you this, like what I have found is that LinkedIn without the premium, without Sales Navigator, which is other systems that, other services you can purchase in the LinkedIn profile platform. But I found that the search engine is remarkable. You can put in your keywords. Like, for example, myself is like, individuals that are side hustlers or individuals that are online entrepreneurs or business, online, online world, if you will. And what I found is like, if I put that in there, naturally LinkedIn's going to give me some other certain, keywords that could work, but also the ability to search anybody on there, which is able to help you identify your kind of customer base. Have you found like the average individual, do they really need the premium if they're just searching on that one-to-one kind of situation on a, just starting out, if you will?
That's a great question, Christian. I think a lot of people ask me that question because they wrestle with that, right? And they're like, oh, I see other people with premium and this and that. There's advantages to premium, but there's also a lot of disadvantages. First off, if you haven't really, if you're just starting out, it's pretty expensive, right? It's pretty expensive for some people for really, you won't see a lot of the value up front to start. If you're a very niche product or you're very specific, there's certain advantages, like you can actually message more people with it. You get more in-mails. So you get in-mails with premium. So what you can do is you get some, you got to purchase more, but you can go directly into their inbox without actually having to connect with them and setting up a personalized invite. You get more targeted search. You get a larger base of search, so you can really get more granular with it. So if you're like, oh, I'm a tech company and I have a software product and I need to reach tech companies, CEOs and executives, but I only work with people that have companies like 250 to 500 people, or I even work 50 to 100 people, and they're in this specific area in Phoenix, Arizona. And you're just getting more granular on your topics. You can fill those all in and boom, it spits out like, here's the people that you can go connect with. If you're in that local area and you have that specific software product, that you can go message them. So there's advantages to it, but I do like to say, if you're starting out organically, you don't need premium. I'm a huge believer in I've seen a lot more people grow organically faster than people that have premium accounts. And so I never had one, and I still don't have one, because my specific approach is using a personalized invite to actually get my foot in the door there, and it's worked really well, and using content to drive inbound requests. And so I also think that a lot of people use premium account and oftentimes do it the wrong way. So they're just selling right away, and people just don't like that. It turns people off. So you're actually creating a negative brand for yourself, negative personal brand. But I like, from an organic perspective, just the regular account, it still gives you really remarkable targeting, really remarkable search, where you can put a lot of good specific pieces in there, like job titles. Sometimes job title, the company, type of industry, the city is really all you need. And you can get some amazing results from that by just reaching out to those people and sending them a connection request, finding a specific piece in there. So it's like, oh, I got a list now of 1,000 people that this spit out. Okay, cool. I'm going to go to their profile. I'm going to check their activity, maybe a post that they've had previously. and I'm going to comment on something tangible that I can use, that I can arm myself for that personalized invite that's going to get them to connect with me. Because once I have them in the door, I can either have a conversation with them, or they may not respond, but I'm connected with them. So they may see my content, which is relevant to them, on my feed, on their feed, and they actually may end up reaching out for business. And I can build credibility using content, and I may get a message a month down the road, be like, hey, since we've connected, I've been seeing a few of your videos, and I love what you do. We could actually use some help with this. And then you may actually get business from it that way as well. So I think the beauty of LinkedIn is that it gives you that flexibility, but just starting out, I think that you don't need a premium account. You can do everything you need to do to grow without premium. And it's about putting in that work and that time and effort.
Definitely. I appreciate you sharing that information, because now I'm looking at like on the back end, and I'd like to kind of get your kind of perspective on it, because, what I've realized is I've talked to some coaches that I've had on this podcast that they have really great engagement with, a lot of likes, comments, and stuff like that on their post, but they're not receiving results, tangible.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that I've, like you, if you look at my content, it doesn't get a lot of likes, comments, engagements, but I utilize the direct messaging system a lot. And I'm getting people
Yep.
on the phone and having conversations, building that relationship in my target market. And that's my strategy, if you will. Long term, I still believe that obviously you need to build a, content and pushing that stuff out there. However, tangible results. So now let me ask you this, like, everybody's like trying to email marketing, cold email. And this is very interesting to me because I was looking at these statistics, definitely in the sales department, B2B. We all know that LinkedIn is so powerful, but also B2C,
Yep.
and someone was talking to where it's person to person. And right now, if you're on Facebook or Instagram and someone said, hey, you want to, have a conversation, a 15-minute chat, you're like, no. But then for some reason on LinkedIn, and I really want to get your perspective on it, people are willing to sit and have a 15-minute conference. Definitely if you have what you just mentioned, the warm welcome, not this copy paste mentality, but a warm welcome. I'd love to get your perspective and kind of what you see in the future here.
Yeah, so that's an excellent observation, Christian, because I think the cool thing is, if you look at the world today on other platforms, there's a lot of push right now for like bots and like Facebook Messenger, because you can have conversations offline. And so there's a lot of that. And I was like, dude, LinkedIn already is that, right? Like, go reach that person. You don't have to like create some sort of fancy software for Messenger, get a Messenger conversation. You can go message someone on LinkedIn and go talk to them, right? Just like that. And they're the cool thing about LinkedIn is by far the average income of a person on LinkedIn right now is $75,000. That's definitely not the case on Instagram, and definitely not the case on Facebook and other platforms. Like if you're talking about an average income, that's really good. And so because it's a very business type focused platform, a very professional platform that people want to engage and have those conversations, because they're either looking to grow their business, looking to grow in their career, they're looking to scale their brand, they're looking to level up in whatever way they want. They want speaking engagements, they want to jump on a podcast, they just want to learn in general. Like they're like, I'm super curious about this industry. Like I want to learn from other people that are already in it as well, right? Because it's like a networking mentality, it's people still treat it like that, so they feel like that's an obligation. Like if someone reaches out to them, well, I'm on LinkedIn for a reason, this is part of it, right? So people are more willing to jump on that call and have those types of conversations, and that really posts a good advantage for people that are utilizing one-to-one messaging, because it is super powerful. I like to tell people it is actually one-to-one messaging is more powerful than content, because you can have those warm conversations and build that trust just like that right away. However, it's not scalable. That's the only challenge for some people, is because unless you use automation or other tools that sometimes make it a challenge for people, especially because it's against the terms of service, you can't scale those types of conversations. And so as soon as you go above, I would say probably about 120 to 130 messages per day, per 24-hour period, LinkedIn will flag you. And so, that means you're capped at the number of people you can reach out to on a daily basis. You're not capped on that with content. So there's advantages there. But I think, from a quality perspective, you can't beat a quality conversation with someone or jumping on the phone with them. And so I think from a results perspective, there's a lot of people that don't know how to do it. They're going about messaging the wrong way. or they just don't have a funnel. They don't have a strategy of how to bring leads in the door. And so, I think if it's a calendar invite, you can jump on a call with someone, awesome. If it's a funnel to like a webinar or something, awesome. Giving someone free value there. I think there's some good, there's strategies, some good call to actions that I think a lot of people don't implement, which is why they're not getting results. They're not warming up leads. And I think that there's another thing is, there's a great way to get your foot in the door to very, very quality targeted, red hot clients potentially is just content-based networking. For someone like you, Christian, who's like, hey, I have a podcast. I don't know your numbers, but there's a lot of people that love jumping on podcasts. Most people will never jump on a podcast in their life because they've never been invited to it. Yeah. I've been on many just because I create a lot of content. People are like, hey, I'd love to do a podcast. I'm like, great. But I'm like the very small minority, right? Most people, if you were to ask them, hey, I'd love to have you on my podcast, people would be like, that's amazing. And that piece of that content networking in to that conversation with someone, even if it's for 15, 20 minutes, is hugely valuable to you and to that person. So that gives you an opportunity now to have a conversation down the road of like, hey, you remember being on my podcast? Hey, I think there's this really good need for you or your company to how we can help you do this, right? And it's like, you know what? Let's have that conversation because now you've built that trust because they'll remember you being on that podcast and they're thankful for it. And so content-based networking, whether it's a podcast interview or you're like, hey, I'd love to do a collab piece of content. I'd love to do a LinkedIn video for 2 minutes. What'd you like to do? I like to ask 3 questions to people, share it with my audience. Most people are like, awesome. Immediately that builds trust and credibility. And I think that's the beauty of that one-to-one messaging. And if you have a platform to be able to do that like you do with a podcast, it really does put your foot in the door in a way that not a lot of other people have that advantage for. So I think using LinkedIn in that way is hugely powerful because, you can go reach for small fish or you can use this strategy for multi-billion dollar CEOs at Fortune 500 companies. Yep. You do have a better chance at getting in the door than a lot of other people will.
And that's what I was finding very interesting. Just a real quick story, because it's like when I was reaching out to you, I was listening to you actually on one of an incredible podcast. I mean, I won't mention the guy's name, but I mean, he's high end and, he's got several million viewers on YouTube and stuff. And I thought, man, Fabio's never going to be on my podcast because it's like, sure, we don't have the big reach. And what I find for those that want to, are kind of hesitant to reach out to those big wigs on LinkedIn or whatever, I was looking at Fabio, I'm thinking, no way is he, he's got all this knowledge and wisdom, and I doubt he's going to be on our podcast. But yet I just reached out and said, hey, you want to be on? And he's like, yeah, of course. And it just was kind of cool to obviously, like you mentioned, not only were you on the literally typing me back, right, on LinkedIn, but you also were just engaging and, being able to have someone like yourself feeding into my audience. I really appreciate that. And so I really want to also mention this, because this is what I found very interesting is, like you were saying, you are literally talking to a lot of times the CEO, the COO, the chief marketing officer, whoever it is, because they haven't been able to find I know like Gary V, for example, he leverages like his team to his marketing team to do Instagram and this and that. But because LinkedIn is professional, a lot of times it's the CEO right there that's posting that content. That's right there on that messaging. Yep. And that's what I find very interesting. That's one of the reasons why you can get around that, quote unquote, door stopper, if you will. And I'd just love to get your perspective on that. You just mentioned that, but I'd love to get you've seen the results with specific industries.
Yep. You know what? Everyone's busy. Everyone is so bloody busy that they don't have time for everything. So, that busy executive, he's got an assistant or she's got an assistant, and, they're taking their emails, they're scheduling their calendar, they're booking their flights, they're doing all this stuff, but they're likely not touching their LinkedIn account. And so that's a personal in you have for someone. When you can go send them an email, great. It might be like one of their 350 emails they had in the last hour, and requests and people trying to sell them something or whatever. Or you can go on LinkedIn and say, you know what, I'm going to send a very personalized message to this person, a warm invite, and be very targeted. And I'm going to make sure that they respond. And that person more than likely is going to grab a coffee in the morning, going to just sit on their couch. Maybe they're grabbing the newspaper or they're scrolling their iPad and look at the news, and they open LinkedIn, they get a notification. You got them when they're quiet. You got them when they're, they're on their personal device, looking at their personal LinkedIn profile. Because a lot of people hold it very tight. They're not giving their LinkedIn and their personal account to someone else, right? It's like, this is my online resume. This is my online business / professional platform profile. I'm not giving that away to people.
Yep.
So when you can do it in the right way, you could very much capture the attention of people that when you have their undivided attention, and then they're going back to their email and their busy life, right? When they get into the office or whatever. So it's a huge platform that I think it's kind of that that a lot of people don't realize. And I think perfect example for me, one of the people I always wanted to talk to, wanted to do some content with, wanted to collaborate with is Jay Shetty. Not everybody knows who Jay Shetty is. He's probably one of the most viewed people on the internet. His videos have been viewed more than 5 billion times with a B, yes, and was featured on Ellen. So I was like, I really want to talk to Jay, like 20 million followers on Facebook. And I was like, I'm never going to get there. Or 5 million on Instagram, never going to get there. But when I messaged him on LinkedIn, at the time, he had probably about 30,000 people posting some content. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this in the right way. So I actually, I created an article series at the time, and I used content. So I created an article series called Incredible. So in being a LinkedIn, sort of featuring incredible people in the world that are doing amazing things. And I already got a few other smaller influencers on that I was doing an article series on, and I used that as leverage. And I said, hey, and it was actually someone that he knew who was also smaller. So I used that name. Said like, hey, I'm doing this incredible series, and I'm featuring, amazing people. They're doing stuff on LinkedIn. Brilliant. And I said, I'd love to feature you in the article, Jay. So I connected with him. We were connected, sent him this message. And I actually already did a lot of the work of the creative. So I designed the header image and everything with him, and the logo with Incredible in there and stuff. I said, hey, and here's what the header image and cover photo would be for the article. It's already done. Let me know if you like it and if you're interested in booking a date. Boom! I got a message back. He's like, this is awesome. Let's do it. So and so I think that built huge credibility. I used smaller people to kind of get that in. And I also did some work up front, assuming he would actually say yes. So, I think it's all about psychology. If he's thinking, oh, he already put in some work, it's already done. He's ready to go. This is awesome. Right. And I knew I wasn't getting someone on his team, which maybe someone manages their Instagram or Facebook because of high volume. And that wasn't the case on LinkedIn. So it gave me that opportunity to do that. And so I was already connected with him though. And I actually did some other pieces of content where I tagged him in it. I did probably a little warm up. So he maybe knew a little bit about me. And so I think doing a little bit of that, being very strategic in how you reach certain people is really going to go a long way, because now I could use the piece of content, the video that I did with him. I did a video with him, and I can now use that as leverage when I'm promoting my products and services, when I'm doing things saying like, hey, I'm not just nobody. I've been able to actually talk to some of the most influential people in the world, because now that gives you, it's amazing how it's not just talking to someone. You can really use that to build trust and credibility in your industry. And so that's the beauty, I think, of LinkedIn, is it gives you that backdoor entrance to meeting some of the most amazing people. I used content and messaging to be able to have a conversation with the founder of Forbes.com. So Miguel Forbes, did a post on him. That post got 1 million views. He remembered, he saw it. I messaged him, we connected, we were chatting back and forth. And then he even followed some of my content afterwards, saying, other videos and stuff, he would comment back on it. And so I thought, how else am I going to talk to the founder of Forbes.com? How else am I going to talk to these, global entrepreneurs and influencers who could really help me level up my game in other areas? Now, I think that's using those leverage points for talking to those people where you wouldn't on other platforms, but don't do it in the wrong way where people are just spamming them with like this long message, this long paragraph of text, copy paste, doing it to the next influencer, copy paste. Like, do it in the right way and you will have huge dividends paid back to you, I promise.
Yeah, and you can't foot stop that enough, really, because I mean, still people want to automate things, automate this, automate this, automate this. But when you put in the work to, and it's not like going out there like physical work where you're going out there and building a hole, right, or digging a hole. It's mental work, going in there in
Yep.
front of the computer, sitting there, and looking at their content, then you know taking it and pushing out like, hey, I really like what you said with the ABC documentary, what you just pushed out. And just like you said, and I think that's you're so right on, because I've uh again, it's this concept, and this is where we were talking about it a little earlier, and I want to kind of switch topics here, but very shortly. But I want to get your perspective on this, because this is where a lot of solo entrepreneurs run into. They're out here and they go out there and they make a lot of activity, but then what happens? They build that pipeline and they have clients over here, and then they slow down on this other side, not keep pushing that pipeline in, because it's strategic. You have to do
Yep.
both all at the same time. And I really like what you said, because you're still, even where you're at right now, you're going out here building and adding value to these incredible clients, but you're also the one that's in charge. You're not automating it. You're not, have a virtual assistant. So I'd like to actually get your, you know, perspective and get you kind of your insight of how do you do that? How do you keep that same momentum? I mean, and you're a busy guy. You're getting, several hundred probably connection requests every single time, every single day. And so
Yep.
I'd like to see how you're able to kind of balance all that.
Yeah, for sure. It's not like, there's no magic answer to that. It takes time and there's a lot of work involved. But I think if there's any way you can get help on it, whether it is a virtual assistant that can take some of that work off your plate. But yeah, I think that it's also focused on the quality of work. There's certain ththings I won't do because I know I'm not going to get a return on that time put in. Yeah, I think that there's things where I know, like, I've done in the past, and if you do it enough times where like, hey, if I post this type of video or this piece of content, or if I drive this webinar or whatever, traffic to this webinar, or I do this article, I know I'm going to get something back from it. But then there's like other times where I'm like, I won't do anything because I know it's going to be another hour or two wasted or whatever. So there's definitely the balancing clients. You got to realize too, like, I try and make the work with my clients as hands-off as possible, in terms of I want to be hands-on with them, but I can't do everything for them. Like, I'm doing it in a way where I'm going to give you everything, because if you're not going to do the work, I don't care what I tell you or what I show you, the steps, you won't actually get any results, because you're not actually bought in. You already don't believe in yourself. You don't believe you're actually going to do it. So if I don't believe you're going to do it, I'm not going to waste time doing it there. So there's certain people where I know I'm going to work and spend time with you because I know it's going to be, from a client perspective, being to pay dividends for you, because you're actually in it for the long haul. And then from the other side, it's, you do got to have multiple streams of traffic. And so to continuously bring people in, I like to say, you got to look at what are the actions that are going to bring in multiple people. So LinkedIn content, there's messaging. You should still do advertising. I'm still a big believer in doing advertising, bringing in clients via, YouTube ads or Facebook ads or whatever, right? So doing some form of advertising, because that leverages your time, right? Because you don't have to actually do anything. So, but not everybody has the money to do it, right? So if you have a budget that you can associate still to some paid advertising to start leveraging some of those clients, that intake of clients, awesome. But then also, yeah, like, look at where your time's spent. If you're on Twitter or you're on Instagram just scrolling and, just watching stuff, like, that's just a waste of 1, 2, 3 hours of your time, where you could actually be messaging more people or doing, something that's actually beneficial for you, for your business. So, I think that there's definitely a process in terms of scheduling out that time. You got to be very focused with that schedule, in certain terms of saying, my schedule from this day to this day, from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m, I'll be messaging people or whatever. Right. And then it's like, 10 a.m. to 12, I'm looking at, product and service growth and development. The next couple hours, I'm reaching out to clients and I'm seeing how I can continue to help them, booking maybe like a coaching call or something with them. You got to be very focused and diligent how you spend your time, and know what's working for you. If you're like, I think there's just a lot of people that are so busy, like posting on every platform under the sun. Got to do a YouTube video, got to do Facebook groups, got to do Twitter, Instagram stories. I got to do TikTok. Like, you got to realize you're one person. So like pick one or two or three and be like, the rest is not beneficial for me unless I grow. So how do I scale on the platforms and the things that are giving me the best return now? And I'll get to that point. Gary Vee talks about the same thing. He talks about, I think it's called the 70-30 strategy. He talks about, I think it's something like that, or 69 or something like that. Like and 70-30, where he said, I spend 70% of my time on platforms that are really growing, and I know like I need to be on them right now. Another 30% of the time, he's like, I'm actually testing new platforms. So he's like, I'm going onto the smaller, like new social media platforms like Byte, or like, at the time TikTok was just growing, and he's like, I'm testing on those platforms, putting my foot in the water there, but I'm really going hard on the 70% that I know I'm getting value from. Maybe it's 2 or 3 platforms. The rest I don't worry about. And he's like, and then the 30%, eventually one of them might take, and those ones will take the place of the 70%. I'll take the 70%, won't put one of them out of there. So he really focuses on how he spends his time on different social platforms and what's going to give him the best return. I think that's really smart of him to do that.
At the end of the day, it's just, strategies, strategically, you got to figure out, okay, where are you going to, the return on investment, and I appreciate that, what you just mentioned. So we're going to kind of dial a little bit, because you posted something the other day, and I thought this is really, really cool. So my wife and I have been Shark Tank. Here's one thing I found insane: the amount of people who are so blinded by their idea, they completely tune out solid advice from multimillionaire entrepreneurs who know 100 times more than they do about business. And sometimes they even argue back. I'm not saying don't believe in yourself, but it doesn't matter what you do for a living. Stay coachable, have humility. I'd love to get your perspective and kind of, what you're seeing in the market right now, and why post that.
Yeah, I mean, I posted that because I just think there's a lot of people, I see it on LinkedIn too, even where I think there's a lot of people that just are not coachable, right? Like they're not, they are too proud to admit that they're wrong about something. They made a mistake. Look at Shark Tank or whatever. People are so close to their business, they hold it so tight. They're not willing to receive advice from people that are actually going to help them grow and succeed. Now, sure, sometimes the sharks are wrong, but I would say in the majority of the time, 99% of the time, they are right, because they just know business. And they're like, hey, I would totally advise you not to go into retail. It's not a smart move for what your product is and where you are currently in your business. But then people are just so hard-headed. They're like, no, like you're totally wrong. And then maybe they fail in a few years. It could be a good lesson for them. But I think that the reality is you got to, whatever it is in life, social media, LinkedIn, business, like whatever it is, if there's someone that's walked the path that you want to be on, listen to them. And that's always been sort of my take on life, because people go through experiences, and I would rather more often find myself put into opportunities that I can succeed in, because I know I got advice from somebody who failed doing the same thing. Yep. And they can give me the steps of how to get there faster. And so, I just think that there's a lot of people that aren't coachable. I've just people on LinkedIn that want to do a specific way, let's say automating or something. And I'm like, listen, this is how you should do it. It's going to take more time. Maybe you don't want to put the time in. Fine. And then I've had people that are like, come back 6 months later and they're like, yeah, it's not working for me. And then they'll go to the next shiny object.
Yeah.
And I was like, if you just listened to me 6 months ago, you may have actually grown a really strong community and actually could be thriving. Your brand could be getting speaking engagements. You could be getting new clients. Like you could be really catapulting yourself to the top of your industry, but you didn't want to put in the work. You just wanted to save some time. Right. And so I think that's where there's that sort of thought processes of people have gone through it. Listen to them, stay coachable, and know that, hey, this person might give me some good value here. I'm going to listen. So, and I'm doing the same thing. So I recommend people do the same thing.
And that's why I really wanted to bring that up, because, that's one of the things that we like to talk about all the time is mentorship and the power of mentorship. And yep. That's why, I wanted to that's when you posted that, I thought, well, that's excellent. It goes right along with what kind of we want to end with, but also kind of like, just being able to optimize that, because you're exactly right. What I've seen is, like, if you think about it this way, the best brain that you have got you to where you're at financially, spiritually, relationally, whatever. So in order to get beyond that, you have to borrow someone else's brain. And that's one of the reasons why, obviously I'm having you on this podcast, Fabio, is because, naturally I'm going to learn from you. And, I asked you a few weeks back, like, what do you think about automation? And, you told me, and that's one of the things I was like, okay, you're right. And so again, like you said, it's being able to learn from other individuals, to be able to, go a better path. And so what
Yep.
I'd like to figure out is, like, and before, I want to do it like closing statements here, but like, what have you, how have you been able to stay humble, even with how much success you've had? How have you been able to stay humble, and who do you find being a really great mentor for you in life?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think just humble humility for me probably comes from, I guess, number one, my faith too. I have a faith background too, where um, knowing that if I'm too proud, my heart's going to get in the way, and it's going to get in the way of my head, and it's just going to be in the wrong spot. And so I think that's number one. And number two, just because I think there's just been good people that I've been able to just see examples of and talk to, whether it's on a podcast or other business mentors or people that are just shed some good light in terms of, hey, if you want to grow, like, I think the first thing that I've always kind of just, I gravitated towards, and that really struck me, and it's always stuck with me, is just the human heart is so proud. We're so proud sometimes. And that pride, not in a way of being like proud of your work, it's pride in being like stubborn, and that, like, you think all yourself, you're like, no, I'm going to go my own path, or and not listening to other people, or not taking advice. I just think that humility has just paid so many big dividends for me, because I just avoided so many mistakes that I probably would have made, and losing thousands of dollars or thousands of hours, or maybe losing relationships with certain people because I didn't listen, right? And so I think that's just a big one in terms of be coachable. That's why I posted that. Stay humble in terms of there's a great book called Good to Great. It's a fantastic book written by Jim Collins, and he actually did research on the not just good companies in the world, the great ones, so truly game changers that are really the top 1%. And what they did was they actually did research on who are the people in the top leadership positions, and then they identified those people, those CEOs, those executives, and then they went and said, who's leading this company and what are their attributes? And so what they figured out was that there's a big difference between good companies, when good companies are probably very profitable, multi-million-dollar, multi-billion-dollar companies, but he would still only consider them good. But the great companies, the ones that are just that next step above, which is very few, he said, are actually led by leaders that have two specific traits. They have humility and a fierce resolve. So they're humble leaders. So they're the ones that when shit hits the fan, they're the ones that are deflecting like, no, it wasn't my people. That was on me. That was my mistake. Our company needs to grow, and that one's on me. I'm taking the blame for that, as opposed to other people who are like, you're fired. This department's fired because you did the wrong thing, right? So they're humble people, and at the same time, they have a fierce resolve, which means essentially that they don't take no for an answer, right? Those are the people that are like, I'm gonna keep plugging away. I have determination, and they're gonna keep when they fall down, they keep getting right back up. And so they have that fierce resolve, but they're also people that are extremely humble. And I think that combination, which they showed in Good to Great, is what truly catapulted good companies to great. And very fascinating book. And I never forgot that as well, when I thought, if these are the companies that are truly great, these are the leaders that people are look up to, these are the companies that are growing exponentially more than others. Why? Because they have humble leaders. Well, then I need to continuously check my heart, regardless of what I'm doing, to ensure that I have a heart of humility in what I do, because that's only going to help me 5, 10, 15 years down the road to avoid a lot of mistakes, and also help me grow exponentially. And I don't want to lose that time. So I think that was just another good learning for me, as that book really spoke volumes to me.
Definitely. And man, I can just hear your heart from doing that. And I really appreciate you just kind of open up and sharing that information, because that's who Fabio is, guys. If you guys are listening to this and, you're kind of like, I'll just, Google this and figure it out on my own. Yeah, you can go to YouTube, you can go to, but however, though, if you just reach out to him, invest into your own self, he can take you to different, I mean, unbelievable amounts of success and achievement. He's already done that with numerous individuals, and I highly recommend just reaching out to Fabio. He'll be able to direct you and say, okay, where are your results? Where are your goals? Where do you want to go? And he'll be able to get those results a lot quicker. And so, I can't foot stomp this enough. He's a mentor, not just in LinkedIn, but in so many other avenues. And so, Fabio, real quick, how can they reach out to you? Any other last final words that so our audience can connect with you?
Yeah, I would say for a lot of people, if there's fear, anxiety, and stress when you're looking to jump into something new, whether it's LinkedIn or grow to another level or put your brand out there, absolutely there's fear. But focus on having an abundance mindset versus a scarce mindset. There's a lot of people that are fearful, and then they'll look back 2, 3, 4 years down the road, and they're like, I didn't do anything. Like I wanted to do something, but fear held them back. And so I'd say have an abundance mindset, knowing that what could happen if you actually just started. So my advice is just start, right? Like you got to start somewhere. You're going to have to go through things. I made a lot of mistakes on LinkedIn when I started. I had to go through, I had some wake up calls, with some influencers who I really greatly respect, because I did the wrong thing when I started. I sent the wrong messages. I came about it the wrong way. I was selfish at times. I wanted to actually get them to connect with me for selfish reasons, as opposed to truly getting to know them. And I guess from that, it was one person that truly called me out on it that really kind of woke me up. And so from there, everything really changed. And so I thought, first of all, you got to start, because you're going to make mistakes like I did too. So start knowing that you're going to make mistakes, but you're going to get through them, but you're going to have way more exponential growth. So start, that's the biggest thing. And if there's anything I can do to help get that process started, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Just send me a personalized invite. Please, if you're listening, say, hey, I was listening to the conversation with you and Christian. It was awesome. I loved XYZ. Would love to connect with you further and see what we can do to provide value to each other. Then I know we can have a good conversation because I know I got some context. So send me a personalized invite. I'll accept it. Or send me a message on any other platforms. If you're an Instagram person, send me a message there. I'll see if we can take that conversation there. Or you can just search me on online, FabioMarrama.com, or on my other website, which is crushlinkedin.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Fabio, for being on our podcast. Guys, if you want to obviously reach out to him, those links will be in the description below. So go ahead and click on that information. We'll have all that information out there for you. But again, Fabio, I really appreciate just the value that you were able to add to our audience, and obviously just wishing you greatest fortune to going out there and building your legacy. So thanks so much for being on our podcast.
Awesome, Christian. I appreciate the invite, and we'll looking forward to hearing the episode.
Thank you.